Hey, and welcome to Coffee Break. So today we're going to talk about the less than popular topic of persecution, which kind of concludes the Beatitudes in Matthew 5. But it says this, in Matthew 5:10, it says, God blesses those who are persecuted for doing right, for the kingdom of heaven is theirs. But I like this verse, and it challenges me because, if you're living in such a way that you're persecuted, you're really doing it. You're really living out your cause for Christ, because you don't ever see someone coming up and persecuting you, making fun of your Christianity when you're living a life of mediocrity. It just doesn't happen. If you're a mediocre Christian living like a kind of Christian life and you're not making waves, you aren't going to receive persecution for it. You're not going to be questioned for it. People are just going to kind of be like, yeah, they say that, but they don't do it, and they leave it alone. But if we're really doing it, we're really living it, that's when we see persecution come. And so when we're passive, when we keep our faith a secret, no one's going to be persecuting us. We've got to be boldly living for Jesus to see this happen, and living in a way that our love for Him shows. And so, persecution, it also kind of works to sort of prove our faith and test our faith and to see if we're really real in our commitment to Christ, if we're going to continue to stand up for Him. Like, I remember in high school, I had this really good friend, and as I followed Christ in the later years of high school after I was saved, he would sit down at lunch every day and pick on me, like just relentlessly pick on me, make fun of my faith, make fun of the Bible, and just, I guess, try and see what would happen. But when I was graduating from high school, and then when I saw him one summer after I'd started college, he sat down and he commended me for the way I acted all those times he made fun of me. And I was kind of like, what? Why did you pick on me? And then now you're going to tell me that somehow that was commendable what I did? Or I told him I went home and cried, and he was like, well, I didn't mean to do that. And he was like, but really, I honestly thought if I picked on you hard enough, you would give it up and you would quit. And he was like, but you didn't. There was something sincere about your faith that you believed it so much that you just let me sit there and be mean to you, and it didn't shake it. And he was like, that really showed me that your commitment to Christ was real, and it really made me think about Christ and the truth of who He was. So it was kind of interesting how God can use persecution even to witness to the people doing it, and that was certainly like a very light persecution, but there's stories of people that have been martyred for the Christian faith, that the people that were torturing them then come to Christ because they see, they were not willing to give up their faith even in the face of death, and it makes such an impression that they knew this Jesus was real and they were willing to die for Him, and so then they then make a commitment to Christ with their lives. And so persecution, can also serve as a witnessing tool where others see it in our lives, and then they respond because they say, okay, Jesus must be real, because they're willing to put up with all this because of it and stand in the face of it. And Isaiah 53, it tells all of us that Christ would suffer, and then the New Testament tells us that we're going to share in His suffering. Okay, and so I love the scripture in Isaiah 53. It encourages me, where it says this. It says, when He sees all that was accomplished by His anguish, He will be satisfied. And so what that means is when Jesus looks and He sees all that was accomplished on the cross, and all that the cruelty of men that He faced and endured, accomplished in bringing us to salvation and eternity with Him, He will be satisfied with that. And I guess the exciting thing for us is in the face of persecution and becoming more like Him, we can see too that persecution accomplishes things in the lives of others and leads others to Christ. And so, I guess the interesting thing in thinking about this is there's a clashing worldly value of weak commitments, which I mean, we can see it everywhere. We can see, weak commitments in faith. We've seen weak commitments in marriage. We see weak commitments even in parenting, where parents don't care for their kids, and certainly in smaller things, and then in these large issues in our lives, that it's just permeating our culture to have these weak commitments where we aren't really sold out for whatever it is that we're committing to, but God calls us to complete and total commitment to Him. And it just really makes me think, is my commitment to Christ weak or is it strong? Because if it's strong and I'm deeply committed to Jesus, it's going to show in every part of my life. And so, does your relationship to Jesus, does your passion and your love for Jesus, does it show? And if you'll stop and think about, and sometimes I stop and think, when was the last time you were persecuted? When was the last time somebody noticed your faith and poked fun at it? Or when was the last time, you were yelled at because you were trying to win someone to Christ? When was the last time you were persecuted? And if you can't remember the last time you were persecuted, that might be a notice that we need to recheck our commitment level in our heart with Christ and see if we're really living out what we say we believe. And so I just encourage you in that. Like, persecution is a good thing because it means we're really doing it. And if we've not received it in a while, we might need to look at our lives and step it up in our commitment to Christ. Yeah, think about that. Becoming more like Christ, which is an exciting thing, to become more like him. And so I guess